Copilot can help you catch up on work or find critical information just by asking. Copilot is Microsoft's artificial intelligence assistant, and it enables several AI features in Microsoft Teams. Chat conversations and online meetings are vital communication tools in Teams, and with Copilot, you can ask for summaries for both, and even ask direct questions about ongoing conversations. If you're late to a meeting, Copilot can catch you up. And when sending messages, Copilot can offer rewrites with clearer, more consistent language to make communication more effective. I'm Nick Brazzi, and I'm going to show you how you can take advantage of the AI features that Copilot brings to Teams. And when you're finished, you'll be able to start using this powerful assistant to lighten your load and bring clarity to your workday. The Copilot AI tools that we'll see in this course are only available to users with a Microsoft 365 account in their school, company, or similar organization. The version of Teams that uses Copilot is not available for home, personal, or family subscribers. You must be part of a Microsoft 365 business or enterprise organization. And additionally, the Copilot tools are not included with Microsoft 365 by default. You will also need a license for the add-on subscription called Copilot for Microsoft 365. Organizations with a Microsoft 365 subscription have a Microsoft administrator. That's usually somebody in the IT department who can purchase these licenses. If you do not have the Copilot license, then you should contact your administrator to ask if they can activate it. And for more information about the different Copilot products and the accounts or subscriptions that you need to use them, you can take a look at our short workshop on LinkedIn Learning called What is Copilot? If you have a Microsoft 365 account with the Copilot add-on, then you should open Teams and then just go into the account menu near the top right and confirm that you are signed into that account. If you have that set, then you're ready to use the Copilot AI tools in Microsoft Teams. In Microsoft Teams, the Copilot AI tools can summarize or answer questions about conversations in the chat section. So to start, I'll go to the sidebar on the left and click the chat button to go to the chat section. I have an ongoing conversation with Stuart, so I'll select that chat here. And of course, you could select a group chat if you wanted. When a chat is selected, you will find the Copilot button near the top right. Click that to open the Copilot panel. You may have used AI chat tools like this before. This one is connected to this chat conversation and can answer questions about it. Just type your question or request in the chat field at the bottom. And remember, you can use informal language when asking your questions. So I want a summary of this conversation. I can just type, "Catch me up," then hit the return key, and it gives me the main points that were discussed recently without going back and reading all of the old messages. When you use this Copilot panel, not just here in Teams, anywhere you might use Copilot Chat, you'll see these little numbers. These are citations, and you can click on any of those to go to the original chat message that contained that information. So if you need a little more context, just use those citations. You can also ask direct questions about this conversation. In the chat field at the bottom, I'll ask, "Were the catalogs mailed out?" Then hit the return key. And it gives me the answer here based on information from this chat. Now finally, if you start using this and you're not sure what questions you can ask, you can click the button at the bottom that says More Prompts, and that will show some suggested questions you can ask based on the content of this conversation. Naturally, when you're finished, you can click the Copilot button up at the top to close that panel. I think you'll find that Copilot can be a great resource for finding information in ongoing chat conversations. The Copilot AI is great at drafting text or rewriting text that you've written to change the style or tone. When you have chat conversations or post messages in team channels, Copilot can help you revise or rewrite your text to improve those messages. First, in the sidebar on the left, I'll go to the Teams section, where you can post a new message or reply to an existing thread. I'll click the button to start a new post. And I want you to see below the text field, there is a Copilot button. Now, this is not able to write a draft of new text. at least not at the time of this recording. But if you start by writing your message first, you can click that button and ask Copilot to rewrite what you've written. So you can do that here in a team channel or in a chat conversation. So in the sidebar on the left, I'll click the chat button to go to the chat section, and I'll select this conversation that I've been having with Stuart, and let's use that feature here. In the text field at the bottom, I'll write a new message. But before I send this message, I need to be careful with my tone. I'm talking to Stuart about a big problem, and I want to make sure it's communicated correctly. Below the text field, I can see that Copilot button, and this only works after you've typed a message. I'll click that, and you've got the option to have Copilot rewrite the message or adjust the tone. So I'll change the tone. I'll choose to switch it to be more casual. It gives me a preview of the revised text. Once you have a version you like, you can just click Replace to put that text into the message field. And when you're ready, go ahead and send the message. And did you know that you can edit messages even after you've sent them? Just point your mouse cursor at a message and these buttons will appear above it. This button that looks like a pencil is the Edit button. So you can click that and then you can make changes, or in this edit view, you can click the Copilot button beneath the text field to get the AI assistant to rewrite it for you. So let's just change the tone again. I'll go into this menu and I'll switch it to be a professional tone. It shows the rewrite, and if you like it, you can click Replace. Once you've finished editing your message, you can click the check mark to confirm, and now that message has been edited. Of course, there is a tag on this message that says it's been edited, so my teammates will know when a message was sent and later edited. So whether you're writing a new message or revising an existing message, Copilot can help you rewrite it or change the tone. Copilot can summarize, answer questions, and offer information about meetings while those meetings are in progress. But first, you should know that Copilot depends on a transcript of what is said during a meeting, so there are a few setup steps that you should be aware of. So I'll go over to the calendar section. I'll click the calendar button in the sidebar on the left. And first, I need to join a meeting. For now, I'll just click the button at the top that says Meet Now and start a meeting, and I'll be alone in this meeting, but that will be just fine. We can still see the controls that we need. Now I see that there is a Copilot button up at the top. With the default configuration, Copilot will only work if there is an active transcript during the meeting. So if I click that Copilot button, it will ask me if I want to start the transcript. Anything that is said after the transcript has started will be searchable using Copilot. Now for now, I'm just going to dismiss this. I'm not going to start the transcription yet because there is another option. You can click the button with 3 dots in the toolbar at the top and go to where it says Record and Transcribe. And you'll see that I have 2 options, one to start the meeting recording and one to start the transcription. But I want you to see if I just start the recording, it shows me a message telling me that recording and transcription have both started. So just keep an eye out as you start this. However you do it, you just need to make sure that the transcript is running and that it has been running for at least 5 minutes, and then you can use Copilot in a meeting. And if you do have the transcription visible, you can click this X to close it and you can continue. You don't have to leave it on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to leave this meeting. Now, in the rare case that you do want people to be able to use Copilot in a meeting, but you do not want to save a transcript of the meeting, you do have another option. But this option can only be set by the person who creates the meeting. To see this, I'm going to create a new meeting. I'll click the New Meeting button up at the top. And if you're setting up a new meeting, you can put in the title, put in the people you want to invite, and all of the other details. But the important thing that I want to see is listed under More Options. So on the left, I'll click where it says More Options. And I do think it's interesting to see that there's an option here where you can set it to have the recording start automatically when the meeting starts, so you don't have to remember to start the recording. That could be useful, but that's not what we're looking for here. I'll scroll down to this menu where it says Copilot. And in this menu, you can set Copilot to work with a transcript or without a transcript. If you choose without transcription, Copilot would keep track of what people say in this meeting, but it would not save it in a transcription. If you make a change here, make sure you click the Save button here, and then you can join that meeting, and that's how it will work. But for now, I'm not going to use this meeting, so I'll just close this, and I'll close this as well. Okay, so that's what you need to get set up. To actually use Copilot, I'm going to join a meeting on my calendar. I have that meeting here, and in this case, some of my coworkers are already in that meeting, and I've already missed the beginning. But I'm not worried because Copilot can catch me up. I'll click the Join button here, make sure that my camera and my audio are all set up, then click Join Now. And I'll join that meeting. And hello, everybody. Sorry to interrupt your meeting. I want to show how Copilot works here. Thanks for helping out. Okay, so now that I'm in this meeting, before I do anything, I want to confirm. Matt, when you started this meeting, you opened up Copilot and you started the transcription, correct?
I sure did.
Okay, great. So that has to be running for at least 5 minutes or this will not work. And I can actually see this panel here letting me know that that's running as well. So now I can close this and I can click the Copilot button up at the top. If you don't see that Copilot button, just click where it says More and you'll see it there, or just make the window a little bit bigger like this, and then you should see that Copilot button there. So when I click that, I see the Copilot panel over here on the right. And then I can use this to ask questions about this meeting. And I think one of the most common questions you might ask if you're late to a meeting is, what did I miss? So I'll type that in, hit the return key, and give it a moment. And it gives me information about what they discussed when I was not here. Another way to get caught up is to ask it to make a table of information from the meeting. So I'll type, make a table of milestones discussed. Now, keep in mind, I don't know what they talked about before I was here. Maybe they didn't talk about milestones yet, but let's see what results we get. And it looks like they did talk about some milestones, and it has enough information to put in a table for me here. That's great. I also like to ask direct questions sometimes. So in that text field, I'll ask, which clients were discussed? Hit the return key, and it shows me the specific clients they were talking about. So I can check this and get caught up without disrupting the meeting. Of course, there are other suggested prompts, so you can click the More Prompts button down at the bottom, and you can see some suggestions if you just want to get some ideas of other types of questions that you can ask. So that's how you can set up a meeting for Copilot and how to use Copilot while the meeting is in progress. Copilot in Microsoft Teams can help you get information about a meeting even after the meeting is over. I'll click the calendar button on the left to switch over to the calendar section. And on my calendar, I can see a meeting that I had earlier today. As I said in another video, you can only use Copilot if the transcript was recorded during that meeting, or if the Copilot without transcript option was enabled. And that applies to using Copilot after the meeting is over. The transcript was recorded for this meeting, and this meeting has ended. I can see information about this meeting by double-clicking on it here in the calendar. Then up at the top, I can click this tab that says Recap. Now there's a button here where we can view the transcript, but above that there is the Copilot button. I'll click that, and it opens the Copilot panel. And in this case, I did use Copilot during the meeting, and I asked some questions there, so I can see those questions are still in the conversation history. But I'll ask a new question here. I'll ask, which markets are we considering? And I'll hit the return key. And we see the answer based on what was said in the meeting. So you can ask direct questions, or of course, you could just ask for a summary. I'll type, summarize this meeting. And it gives me that summary here, but that's a little long. So I'll go back to the chat field and I'll ask it to give me a shorter summary. And it gives me a summary that's not quite as long. Or you can click where it says More Prompts down at the bottom to get an idea of other options. And I can just click one of these suggested prompts to try it. I'll choose this option to suggest follow-up questions. And it works just as if I had typed in that prompt myself. It gives me the answer here. Now to finish, there's one last small detail. I'll click the close button up at the top. So we saw that you can get information about a meeting after it has ended. You can find the meeting here on your calendar and double-click it as we saw, or you can go to the chat section in Teams. So I'll click the chat button in the sidebar on the left, and unless the meeting was connected to a specific team channel, you will see a summary of each meeting here as a chat thread after the meeting is over. Now these do not stay in the recent list forever, but shortly after the meeting is over, it may be an easier place to find it. So I can select that meeting summary here. There is a button for the transcript, and if there were any chat messages during the meeting, I would see those here as well. But of course, we want to click the Recap tab at the top, then click the Copilot button, and we can work with the same Copilot chat here. Just another way to find your post-meeting recap. So if you miss a meeting, and if the transcript was recorded during that meeting, then you can find all the information you need about the meeting using Copilot. I'm looking at the website copilot.microsoft.com, where you can use the Copilot Chat Assistant. This is available to anybody. However, remember the subscription I mentioned at the beginning of this course. If you sign in here with an account that has the Copilot for Microsoft 365 license, then the Copilot Assistant can answer questions about your organization. And if you use Teams, then you can use this assistant to get information about your organization inside of Teams. So let's go over to Teams. I'll click the button with 3 dots in the sidebar on the left, and this is where you can find apps that run inside of Teams. You may see the Copilot app here, or you may need to use the search field at the top to search for it. Once you find it, just click on it to open it. And while you're using the Copilot Assistant, you will see a button for it in the sidebar on the left. If you plan to use this on a regular basis, I recommend you right-click on that button and choose Pin, and then that button will stay in the sidebar. So this is an AI chat assistant, but instead of answering questions using information from the internet, this is able to answer questions using information from your organization's Microsoft Graph. So it's able to find information about the people in your organization, documents stored on your company's OneDrive or SharePoint libraries, messages sent, and meetings scheduled between your coworkers, and more. So let's give it a try. I'm going to ask a question about a document that was shared with me in my company's OneDrive. So in the chat field, I'll write, which executives are mentioned in the, and then I want to refer to a specific document. And to do that, you can type the / key, then start typing in the name of that document, and I see it found documents that I have stored or have been shared with me in my organization's OneDrive. This is the document I'm looking for, so I'll select that. That gives me my full question, so I'll hit the return key, and it answers the question based on the content of that document. Next, without any additional context, I can ask a follow-up question about the information that it just gave me. I'm going to ask a follow-up question that will also need to pull information from my email. I'll type, have I ever sent an email to any of them? Then hit the return key, and it found that information from my email. And remember, the Copilot Chat Assistant will show these little numbers, which are citations. These tell me where it found this information, so I could click on one of these citations and it would take me to Outlook and show me that actual email message. You can also ask questions about people in your organization. So I'll type in, which department does Stuart Morey work in? Now, if you know the person's full name, of course you can feel free to write it just like that. But what if you know somebody's first name but you can't remember their last name? Well, let me delete a little bit here. And what you can do is type in the / key, then start typing in that person's first name, and it searches the company's directory. I see it found Stuart Morey, so I can click on him here, then finish writing in the rest of the question. Then hit the return key. And it found the answer in my company's directory. And you can ask more complex questions, which can pull from other resources like your calendar. I'll ask, when was my last meeting with Henry? It gives me that information, and of course there's a citation here. So I can click on this citation, and it takes me to the information page for that meeting, where I can see the transcript or attendance report or any other information that may have been saved from that meeting. I'll go back to the Copilot app. Now, if you ever need help thinking of questions that you can ask, you can click the More Prompts button just above the text field to see some suggestions. And from here, you could click where it says Go to Copilot Lab, and this takes you to a web page where you can see suggested prompts that you can use in several different Copilot tools. You may want to go to this App menu and set this to filter down to only show prompts for Microsoft 365 Chat. Of course, you could try some of these, or you could click this button to bookmark one so that you can use it in the chat assistant later. Of course, this version of the Copilot Assistant is able to use private information about you and your organization. That information is protected by the security features in Microsoft 365. To protect your organization's data, the Copilot chat will only show information to you if you have security permission to view that information traditionally in other Microsoft 365 apps. In this video, I want to briefly mention Copilot Studio. This product is separate from the other tools we've seen in this course, and it requires its own separate subscription. Copilot Studio allows users to create their own custom AI chat tools. Custom Copilot chatbots can be published on a website or other platforms, or somebody can make a Copilot and publish it for their teammates to use inside of Microsoft Teams. If you want to learn how to use Copilot Studio, I recommend the course Copilot Studio First Look. But let's see how you might use a custom Copilot inside of Microsoft Teams. In the sidebar on the left, I'll click the Apps button. When somebody makes a custom Copilot, they can name it whatever they want. Somebody in my organization has made a custom Copilot, and they named it after our company, Globe Bank. So in the search field here, I'll search for Globe, and scrolling through here, I can see it here in the search results. Now, there's much more information in that Copilot Studio course, but somebody in my organization made this chat assistant, published it, and made it available to their teammates in the same organization. I can find it here. I can click Add, and then choose Open, and I can use the chatbot here, which has been trained using our company's employee manual and related documentation. So it's able to answer policy and HR questions for employees at my company. So just to see how it works, I'll ask, what is our policy for employee absences? And hit the return key, and it is able to answer that question. So even if you never use Copilot Studio yourself, at some point you may have the opportunity to use a Copilot chatbot inside of Teams that one of your teammates created. And of course, you can always learn how to use Copilot Studio if you want to make a Copilot of your own.